What are 10 things that you can stop in your 40s that will make you happier in your 50s? I've stopped these 10 things and it has changed everything. The first thing that I stopped was being afraid to ask for help. I used to want to come off as strong and independent and not needing anything. But as time went on, I realized that people would never ask me if I needed help. No one called to check on me to just see how I was doing. And it was because they were so used to me saying that I was fine, that I didn't need anything, that they just eventually stopped asking. And then as I got older, there were times that I did need help, that I couldn't lift that heavy thing, or I couldn't accomplish a certain task. And there was not a person around to help me. My kids were used to me being fine. When I was married, I never asked for my husband to carry in the groceries or, fix things. I did it all myself because I thought that was an admirable quality, to be self-sufficient. And to a certain extent, that is. You don't want to always be leaning on people and always be needy. But at the same time, you want to allow other people to help you. It makes them feel needed. It makes them feel like they are contributing and pouring into your life. And it saves you some grief and energy and, extra work. So I have learned the hard way to accept help and ask for help. Even if it is something that you can do on your own. Every now and then, if somebody offers to do something for you, even if you can do it on your own, go ahead and allow them to help you. The second thing that I have stopped in my 40s is being a people pleaser. This one, I have to tell you, is so freeing. If you can stop worrying about making everybody else happy and how everybody else is enjoying themselves and enjoying life and how they're feeling, and it will just free you. There is so much stress that comes along with trying to make sure that everyone else is good. And it puts you at a deficit because you're always pouring out, trying to make sure everybody else is good. You neglect yourself. You neglect your health, your sleep, your peace, because you're so stressed out about how everyone else is doing. And they don't often appreciate how much effort and time and energy you are pouring into them. And it is often not the best situation because a lot of times I would find myself trying to be the go-between when people aren't getting along, and I would try to, intervene and fix things, and I'd go back and forth between the two people. Well, they really didn't mean this, and they weren't trying to offend you. And then I find myself in the middle of the situation, and it would just make things worse. That was never my intention, but it would just make things worse. And then I would find myself, planning, say, trips for the family, and I'm trying to make sure all the kids are having fun, and this child doesn't like this activity or this type of food, but this child does, and I'm trying to find a place for everybody to eat where, everybody's going to be happy. It was so stressful. Always trying to make sure that everybody was happy and feeling responsible for their experience, and it often was unappreciated in the end, and I stressed myself out for nothing. And when you are constantly being a people pleaser and people get used to that, when you get to that point where you want to say no, then they put the guilt trip on you. You're not allowed to say no when you don't want to do something. So it's just a cycle that the sooner you can break it, the happier you will be. And you will even get comfortable with people not being happy with you, not being happy with your answer, or having a bad experience of some sort. You actually will get used to it, and you will recognize that they'll be okay. Just give it a little time. So stop being a people pleaser was the next thing that I did. This one, number 3, might shock you, but then again, it may really help you. I stopped eating vegetables. I know everybody says eat your fruits and vegetables. Being vegan and vegetarian and all that stuff is very trendy. But I stopped eating vegetables in my 40s, and it has made all the difference. I have a lot of reactions to something called oxalates, which are very prevalent in a lot of vegetables. Your dark leafy green vegetables, sweet potatoes are another one. I have had so many negative reactions to the nightshades, any of the vegetables in the nightshades, and people think that you cannot live without vegetables, that you can't get all of your nutrients from vegetables. That is so not true. There's tons of research out there, but you have to dig for it. You can look on YouTube, but basically I do the carnivore diet. I eat all types of protein and I eat healthy fats. So I do allow for avocado, butter, any animal fats, and I don't do vegetables. I don't even really do fruit because of the high sugar content. And I have to try to watch my sugar. So I don't do regular sugar. I will use allulose. I can't even do stevia, which is plant-based. It still gives me joint pain and inflammation. And I do get so much, just my stomach is bloated when I eat a lot of vegetables. I have joint pain. I have inflammation. So cutting out vegetables, as crazy as that sounds, because it goes against conventional wisdom, there are more and more doctors and studies being done on eliminating vegetables, and a lot of people are seeing benefits from it. And I get my blood work done regularly, and everything is fine. All my vitamin levels are fine. So if you have gastrointestinal problems, bloating, any type of digestive issues, maybe look into something like the carnivore diet, which is even more of an elimination diet than the keto diet. Similar to keto in that it's very low carb, but keto does still include vegetables, whereas carnivore does not. So I left vegetables in my 40s and probably will never return. Okay, moving on. I'm checking my notes. I don't want to miss anything. Number 4, I stopped following trends. And that is in all areas: societal trends, political trends, fashion trends. Basically, in a nutshell, I am a thinker and I come up with my own decisions about how I want to view a situation, a circumstance, decisions that I want to make. I am not following the crowd. Like I said, you can look at any area of life when societal norms, just take women working and climbing the corporate ladder, trying to make as much money as possible. I left that in my 40s. It's not serving me because of the season of life that I'm in. Sure, wouldn't we all like to make more money? Absolutely. But I can't make that my focus right now because I have an elderly mother that I have to take care of who is beginning signs of dementia. And I have a 15-year-old that I still homeschool and have to finish raising. So my family has requirements on my time and my energy that keep me from being able to put corporate America at the top of my priority list, or any job, just climbing the ladder. I can't have a very stressful, demanding job because my family still has so many demands on me. So I've had to learn to accept the balance. I can't do both because there's not enough time in a day and there's not enough energy to do make both of those a priority. So I have to be at peace with having a good job, a stable job. I could probably get a more demanding job that would pay more, but it would be at the expense of my family. So I had to accept that I am in a season where my mother still needs me, and I have a young man that I'm still raising, and I'll probably be in that season another maybe 3 to 5 years. And then if I want to then elevate my occupation to, the highest priority, maybe that will be the time. So chasing after the highest paying job, I left that in my 40s because I'm just not in a season of life where that is going to be possible. The next thing that I stopped following a trend for was political trends. I am in such the minority when it comes to my views on politics. And we just came through a very charged political season. And amongst, my family members, I'm in the minority in the terms of the way I think, but I don't let that bother me. I know what I think is right and what I think is true, and I'm okay with standing on that. And so underneath this whole point of following trends, whether it's fashion trends, societal trends, political trends, I've become very comfortable in my 50s with being on my own in these areas. If no one agrees with me, that's okay. If I think that I'm doing the right thing for the right reasons, with the right motives. So I'm not caught up with what everybody else is doing. I've always kind of been a person to follow my own path, stay on the straight and narrow. I don't really follow the masses. And even more so in my 40s. And like I said, especially with the whole political situation, I would be in the minority amongst my family members. But that's okay. It really is okay. I stick to my convictions and I'm happier for it. So number 5, we're on to number 5. I have stopped looking for friends. Again, I'm realizing that I've always kind of been a person to follow my own path, march to the beat of my own drum. And I am in a season of isolation. I realize that God has me right now in a season of isolation, and I don't have a lot of close friends. I don't have any close friends whereby, we spend time together and so forth, go out to dinner or the movies or whatever. And I stopped looking for that. And I think what helped me come to peace about that is that recognizing again the season of life that I'm in and thinking very clearly about, would I even have the time or energy to put into a friendship that would be the right amount, whereby I'm giving the relationship what it should require. And I don't think that I have that time right now or that energy. And it took me a little bit of time to accept that and get used to that. But I thought about it and I had to say to myself, when would I even be able to get away? Again, I'm my mother's primary caregiver. And so for me to leave and spend an afternoon out or whatever, I have to make a lot of arrangements to have somebody to stay with her. And of course, that does get trying at times, but I'm more at peace with it now because I've just accepted that this is what God has called me to do. He's called me to be there for my mom in her last years of life. She's 89. I don't know how much longer she will live, but I know that I want to be able to say that I was there for her and I don't want to have any regrets. So that has helped me to say, you know what? Now is not the right time. Because if I had girlfriends and everybody calling me to hang out and do this and do that, I'd constantly have to turn them down. And then that's not any fun. And you want to be able to pour in to whatever relationships you have. And I'm just not in a position right now where I can do that. So, again, between being a single parent, I have to be there for my son. Or I don't want to leave him sitting at home while I'm out on a Friday night or something like that. And then I have to find someone to come sit with my mother. So it would take too much. So I just stopped looking for friends, and I'm okay with it. It won't always be this way, but right now I'm okay with it. All right, moving on to number 6. I have stopped parenting my adult children. And what I mean by that is I've stopped offering advice unless it's asked for. I've stopped giving my opinion unless it's asked for. And I've started that transition into being more of a listener, a sounding board, just being there for them, and transitioning away from instructing them. So I'm no longer leading them, but I'm there kind of walking beside them. I had to make a mental shift for my kids who are 26 and 25 and 22, that now I have to learn to think differently about my relationship with them. Because if I want them to still come to me when they're hurting or when they need advice, then I think that my role has to be not one of, well, she's just going to tell me everything that I did wrong, and she's just going to tell me everything that I need to do, and more of a parenting role. I think it'll come off as being judgmental, because they're making choices, and I may not agree with all of their choices, and they're going to make mistakes, but I don't want to come off like a harsh, parent that's just going to point out all of their flaws. So I'm transitioning into being more of a friend. Now, I'm going to tell them what I think. If they ask, I'll say, tell them the truth if I think they could have done something differently or done something better, in a better manner. I will definitely tell them the truth, but I'm not offering my opinion and my advice unless they ask me for it, because I want them to know that even if they feel like I'm going to be disappointed in a decision they've made or something like that, that they can still come to me and I'm not going to beat them over the head with it. So that has led to more peace and harmony, and I think them trusting that they can be vulnerable with me more. So that is another thing that I've changed coming out of my 40s and into my 50s, as I have more of 3 of my 4 children are adults. Changing that mindset of how I see them. I have to see them as young men and women who are finding their way, and they're going to do a lot of things right, but they may make some mistakes. But either way, I am there to listen and advise if they should ask for it, not just give it, even, when it's not solicited. All right, so we're moving right along. Number 7, I'm leaving behind not having any boundaries. I was horrible in my 30s and my 40s about having boundaries. Boundaries around my time, boundaries around my finances, boundaries around the amount of emotional energy I will pour into a situation or into people. These things were my boundaries were so lax, I basically had none, that I would often be manipulated, taken advantage of, and then I end up feeling bitter because here I feel like, I'm doing all of these things to try to, be there for people and make people happy and serve people. See, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm serving them. But what it ended up doing was creating the perfect storm whereby the relationship is still going to suffer because I would feel unappreciated, and I wouldn't feel like the same amount of energy and time and resources was reciprocated. It created bitterness, B, and then C, you still end up with a bad situation. So it is a no-win cycle. On the surface, it appears, you can think to yourself, but I'm a giving person, and I give and I give and I give, and I try to make sure everybody's happy. And I say yes to everything because I'm trying to be there for people, but it's an illusion. It never works out. It does not work out. You're going to be so much better off, have more peace, have more clear understanding in your relationships when you have boundaries. So that is a big one. Take a look at your life. Do you have boundaries? Because this may be another one that you too should leave behind. Make sure you're moving into 2025 with good boundaries in place in all of those areas of life, your time, any resource, whether it's your time, your money, your emotional resources, have those boundaries in place. In the beginning, it'll be hard because you're going to feel like you're letting people down, and you want to say yes and you want to make people happy because often, having no boundaries goes along with being a people pleaser. Leave both of those behind and you'll be happier ultimately down the road. All right, number 8, I have left behind relationships that were not serving me. I got very comfortable coming out of my 40s and going into my 50s with letting go of people if the relationship wasn't serving me, if the relationship was toxic, and that can be with parents, with siblings, with friends, with people, your partners, romantic partners. If things are just not going to work out, because it takes two people trying to have a relationship work. If it's not, I've learned to let people go and be okay with letting people go if it's not beneficial and serving me, and not feel badly about it. So I get comfortable with blocking people. People that are toxic, if I have to block you, on my phone, if I have to block you from emailing, on social media, whatever it is, get comfortable with that. You will have so much peace. I have a family member that always is calling to ask for money, always calling because they're in some jam or some fix that because of bad decisions that they made. And, from years and years of helping and helping and helping, they're not making any better decisions. And you just get tired of, people not getting their lives together and then coming to you to bail them out of mess after mess after mess. And on top of that, they're not very grateful, having a ungrateful, nasty attitude, and in terms of them feeling entitled to you helping them. Well, you're supposed to help me because you're family. So that sense of entitlement, and then they guilt trip you when you want to pull back and say, well, I just lent you $100 and you haven't paid that back yet. All that whole cycle of them feeling entitled, and you're trying to set some boundaries and say no because this continues to go on, and then they guilt trip you, and it's just this horrible cycle. I have learned to be okay. I told that family member, I cannot lend you any more money. You cannot ask me for any more money. I can't give you rides. I can't do any of all of the stuff that you need. I can't do it anymore. And they got upset, and they, left very, very long messages that were not nice at all. And I just blocked them. And I'm just okay with it. And my life has been so peaceful as a result. So yes, that would be the next one. Letting go of relationships that are not serving you. If people have come to take advantage of you, manipulate you, whatever it is, work relationships, family, romantic, be comfortable. Okay, that's going to take us to number 9, and that is trying to be a peacemaker. I think this kind of relates back to a prior point where I would always, being a people pleaser, if I, it could be anything. If I am with a group of people and I see that somebody looks like they're not having fun, I try to go and find out what the problem is and see if I can rectify it. And it doesn't matter if I had to spend money to rectify it, if I had to spend my time, if I had to do both, if I needed to go talk to somebody on their behalf, just not staying in my lane, basically, and getting involved in other people's situations and owning how those situations turned out, thinking that I'm doing a good thing, thinking that I'm being a good friend or a good family member. And it just put so much pressure and stress on me that I stopped. And then I'll just pray about it. If these two people aren't talking, they're not getting along, there's some misunderstanding, I stay out of it. I hate to sometimes, because you kind of like are sitting on the sidelines and slowly watching the train wreck kind of thing. Or maybe you are privy to information that one or the other party doesn't understand, and you can't help but feel, but if they just knew this, they would not be mad at this person. If they just understood that, they would see the situation differently. I have fought the urge to get involved, even if I'm privy to information that I think could squash the disagreement, make it better. I am learning to, nobody asked me to get involved. I stay over here in my lane and I let that situation play out, work itself out. Again, I'll pray about it and things like that the Lord will open their hearts and their minds and that they can come to agreement. But I don't try to interject myself any longer. So that would be number 9. And that is, that urge to make sure that everybody's good and everybody's happy and everybody's okay. Leaving that in my 40s, going into my 50s, not taking all that extra ownership of other people's experiences and happiness. And then the last one, number 10, is ignoring my personal needs and putting everybody else first. I am moving away from that. I just found that I would wear myself so thin taking care of everybody else. And I think we do this as moms and just as women, as nurturers. We want to make sure everybody is taken care of. So if our sleep suffers, if our finances suffer, if emotionally we just are pouring out, then we think we're doing the right thing. But I've learned that if I'm wearing myself so thin, I'm not going to be any good to do anything for anyone. So I've got to prioritize my sleep. I've got to prioritize my health. I've got to prioritize my mental peace and my joy and all of those things so that I can be of some help to my family and friends when the time is right and when it's needed. But for me to wear myself so thin, trying to be a busybody and make sure everybody else's lives are going good and everybody else is happy, in the end, it usually backfires and you are left feeling worn out, unappreciated, and then it's just not a good situation. So these are the things that if you are analyzing things that you could change as you are moving from one season of life to another, or at the time of this filming, it is the end of December 2024 and the new year is coming. A lot of people are reflecting, taking stock of the year, what went well, what didn't, what are some things that you might want to change. Think about some of the things on this list. They definitely have improved my life, and as I'm moving into, that middle-aged, midlife area, I I want to be happier, and I want to make sure that I'm improving over things that were going on in my 30s and 40s. So I hope something on this list is useful to you. And you guys know, as always, if you ever need prayer, go ahead and drop it in the comments. And until the next video, bye y'all.